the Matty Daddy. It is Wednesday night delight. We're going hard. We are going fast. Tonight, we're talking fantasy football value. What's that? We're talking guys that might have everybody in the community a little confused, but have that dangling upside, that RB1, wide receiver one, you name it. And then you see the wrestling mat up here. I'm getting to talk a little wrestling, baby. Woo! Like Ric Flair said, let's go. But it's not just me. I've been listening to this guy. It used to be Roto World, NBC Sports Edge. This guy is living the dream down in South Beach as we speak. Cup of coffee in the big time. John Daigle, baby.
It is a cup of coffee. There might be something else actually in that cup of coffee, but I respected your show and did not highlight what I am drinking. How's it going? Thanks for having me on, by the way. I don't know if you noticed whenever you were making that announcement, but actually my shirt, it's a Hawaiian shirt, but it's actually, if you can tell, a bunch of It is literally a bunch of Ric Flairs all over the shirt. And so that's what we are doing. Yeah. Dude. But thank you again for having me. I am glad to be here.
Dude, we're pumped to have you. This is kind of that lull part of the season. Yeah. We were talking about your mentals, everything like that. This is right before the cream rises. So you were talking South Beach. You were talking vacation. Go ahead and just tell everybody else what you told me about this gauntlet of a season we're about to experience.
As someone who literally left Connecticut, not only because they kicked me out and said, hey, we're not coming back to the office for 2 years, but as someone who was not mentally healthy whatsoever. Like I was literally during the pandemic when with no friends or family around, locked down, mentally unstable, drinking and like vomiting in my own apartment at 2 p.m. It was not a good scenario whatsoever. So I can be here and tell you and be vulnerable all about mental health. And I will tell you that this season, everyone needs to take this next upcoming month-long exodus and do something wonderful with your life just to relax and to get yourself ready, because we really are in store for the longest season, whether you're in the industry writing, wanting to podcast, or just playing fantasy all together. The fact that for the first time ever, 29 teams report to training camp on July 27th, that's when hell on earth begins. And then, of course, it is an 18-week, 17-game regular season with buys well into week 14. And for all these best ball tournaments we're talking about, by the way, they start in week 14 for FFPC or week 15, and weeks 15 through 17 are 3 individual tournaments. So it's like you have to kind of know that schedule as well. And we could talk about that as we move along here. Not to mention 2 Christmas games for the first time ever. Games after New Year's Day. We're all going to be hungover for that and tired already. Games in the first weekend of January. And they are keeping the short-term COVID and IR stints around. So it's just going to be a long and pressing season. And if you are somebody who only wants the likes and retweets on social media anyways, then maybe you're not actually diving in and doing the work, and like you're not helping your listeners and followers win money, which is kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to give away actionable info. But if you are doing that, then you need to get ready to grind. And if that's the case, just takes the next month off, genuinely. Hence why I look like a tomato in South Beach right now, because I was trying to take the next month off, and now I'm just sunburned to crisp.
Well, you were saying you can't drink at 2 p.m. Like you're in Miami, baby. It's always drinking weather.
That I did learn that, yeah, that to be in Miami, you have to either start drinking when you wake up or wear half your clothes, or both, honestly.
Not terrible. Not terrible.
Not
we
a bad
got
life.
a comment. Joey Wright from Razzball, styling and profiling. Woo! Mad respect for the nature boy, dude. Let's get to the nitty gritty, though. We're talking values. We're talking players that maybe the industry isn't high on just because of situation. So I'm here to talk to you. You kind of fill us in on these guys. And if this is a guy you think could sneak into that QB1 territory, or if he's just kind of be a middle of the line to losing Julio, we got Matt Ryan, man. This whole new Arthur Smith run game, not having Julio, but you got Pitts, and this defense isn't good. So what are your thoughts on Ryan? Are we going to expect, usually a bad defense equals a good offense for the most part?
I've been treating him like a fringe QB1. There's a lot of nuance when you're talking about Matt Ryan and the Falcons offense, because on one hand, sure, they do have Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Arthur Smith. They have the pieces to put together an amazing offense. Having said that, if they rid themselves of Julio. And if Ryan's dead money cap hit were not $42 million, they also would have got rid of Ryan. The issue is they couldn't have due to that money. There's just no way to escape that contract because no one was paying for him at this stage of his career for that amount against the cap. And so I think this is a semi-rebuild. They moved on from Julio clearly. They're going to use 1 year of Matt Ryan and then draft his predecessor. And the issue is their schedule. They actually have a very easy and soft opening schedule for the first 5 weeks, but they have an early bye. And so they have a bye week 6 and the longest season literally we've seen ever, 18 weeks we talked about earlier. Not to mention that they got gifted, quote unquote gifted, an additional road game. So they have 9 road games and they actually have 10 road games quietly because their home game in week 5 against the Jets is in London. So when they return from their bye from week 7 on, they have 8 road games. It's not a favorable schedule, honestly. It seems like one that sets up Matt Ryan to be MVP through the first month of the season and then crater as they look around. They don't know what to do and their offense falls apart. So I am very tepid. I wouldn't say I'm not out. I'm out on him, but I'm very tepid when I approach Matt Ryan. Low end QB1, fringe QB1 for me.
So that's one of those situations that if you are going to draft him, maybe after those good weeks, kind of find an owner or a buyer for the most part. Let's keep talking Atlanta, dude. We just did a quick hitter last night. We kind of talked trade value, end of the year production. Mike Davis doesn't have anybody else back there, and this guy performed admiringly. He is a journeyman, but for the most part, he's kicked ass and take names. For where you're getting him in the draft, is this another one of those you might want to take a gamble on as your RB2-3?
He is my RB16 overall. I'm going to stay above the industry throughout the offseason because I do think his ceiling includes 3-down territory. Everyone cites the fact that he withered down the stretch last year, but remember that last year was a season that there was no OTAs, there were no training camps, and he got thrusted into the mix out of nowhere for 100 plus more touches than he ever had at any point of his career, even going back to college. So of course the dude was tired. He never had that workload in his entire life. But this year with OTAs, with training camps to get more prepped, and suddenly this Falcons offense and defense that we don't even know if they're going to focus on running the ball at all. I don't think just because Arthur Smith with Mike Vrabel was asked to lean on Derrick Henry, that means lean on this guy. I actually think with their defense, you even mentioned it earlier, how poor they are. I think they're going to be forced to throw, and there's no one in that backfield. The competition being 4th rounder Kadri Allison, who's the big goal line guy, and undrafted free agent Javian Hawkins. We know historically undrafted guys just don't matter. It's so hard for them to carve out a role. There's no one who's going to take, at the very least, that pass catching role from Mike Davis. So even if we just get that, I think that already makes him a low end RB2. But the fact he could be a 3-down option all the way, that's why I move him up over everybody else.
I like it. This is an interesting one. This is yum yums to me because, like you said, undrafted Quadri Olson. We're all waiting for this. It's funny how like a Quadri Olson or a Justice Hill, these guys that you outplay Chris Carson in college, you outplay Connor in college. So you think this is just locked and loaded money in the bank, and then nothing. Slow burn, I guess you'd call it.
Agree.
Dude. Let's go Swift, man. This is another one. Everybody loves the talent. They hate the situation, but he is a pass catcher. So he usually has that safe floor. They do bring in Jamal Williams. They flirt with all these other broken down RBs. Thoughts on Swift?
So the issue in citing broken tackle metrics, which a lot of people do on social media, I've done this long enough to know that maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't matter. Like, coaches don't understand or know those metrics. That doesn't gift a player more touches. It just doesn't make sense at all. Whereas the information we do know is that they did call Swift a 3-down option, but they did that in February when they first got hired and before they went into free agency and signed Jamal Williams, who they also called their 1A back. Now, you need to dance around the way Anthony Lynn views 1A and 1B. Like, he just talks about bigger guys being the 1A guys, who he said also can be 3-down options. But what that tells me at least is it's going to be goal line, and he's going to split snaps with Swift. And that's how I'm approaching it. I think everyone drafting Swift higher thinks there's a realization. Think there's a an out here where Swift is like a 3-down guy. It's very clear that's not the case. That's what they keep repeating to us over and over again. And so I am very much, especially with the Todd Gurley signing, still probably going to happen. So I am out on Swift at his current ADP. If he gets to the very, very low end RB2, like 23, 24, or fringe, like high end RB3, that's where I'll be in. But overall, it's just going to be splitting touches. And if we expect this offense to be passing a lot, Jamal Williams was actually a very good pass catcher with the Packers. So I think he'd split those passing reps as well.
When Swift stays hurt, man, this is an improved Detroit offensive line, but you do have Goff. You don't have any receivers out there and another team that's going to be playing from behind. So you can't just focus on Swift, right? It's got to be – they're going to figure that out on defense.
And that's the issue, right? That's where it comes down to information, because we assume that the Lions want to be a run-heavy team. Like those coaches just reek of just running the ball inefficiently. That's what they want to do. But it doesn't matter because their defense and offense is so bad, they're not going to be able to hang in 2021 with anyone. And so whenever you're staring down the barrel of a three-score deficit in the third quarter, what are you going to do? You're not going to run the ball. Of course you have to be forced to pass. So what we're really asking ourselves is not do they want to do, but what will they be forced to do eventually? And so if you do believe, and I'm leaving outs here, I could very well be wrong. If you believe that John Swift would exclusively be the pass catching back, then good. Get in on him, because then I'll be wrong and we should have him higher. But I don't think so. I think he's going to split those reps with Jamal Williams, and that's why I'm lower.
When you get to like that RB8 to like 16 range, everybody has that RB1 potential. It's just situation and everything has to work its way out.
Well, this year in particular, it's an odd year. It's fun to talk about because this is why I like tiers. And if you go to NBC Sports Edge, you can see my running back tiers, all my best ball tiers actually. And like I have Cam Akers leading off the second tier as my RB8 overall. And then I have Najee Harris in my RB15 overall. And that's my ranking, but who cares about ranking, right? Like I have tiers because you should be subjective. And if you have a better lean on information than I do, take that guy, because of course Najee Harris could outscore Cam Akers. It could easily happen. I'm just telling you, these are my rankings. They are the same guy though. And that's what makes RB 7 or 8 through 15 super interesting this year.
Right. Well, and then that's when you get that dip for like a Mike Davis that you're drafting maybe 2 rounds later at some point. You stack up on these alpha receivers, and then Mike Davis is sitting there 2 rounds later.
Mike Davis, Chris Carson, and Chase Edmonds, and Myles Gaskin. Those are my 4 favorite guys that dip because they prove to have a target share as well, or handle a majority of the team's backfield carries. I know a lot of people have J.K. Dobbins up there. That's fine. I'm a little more out on J.K. Dobbins because the issue is that he's not going to be forced targets. Like this team, Lamar Jackson, doesn't target running backs. And so whatever's going on at OTAs does not matter to me at all. Like you're not telling me anything. Even like the 5 games that Mark Ingram was healthy scratch for last year, J.K. Dobbins only out-touched Gus Edwards 119 to 117. They were the same guy, except you can get Gus Edwards 5 rounds later. Then you have to pay J.K. Dobbins. So to me, that's an easy decision.
People like Dobbins just make you mad because you see it and you want it so bad.
He's so good. Yeah, that's the issue. Is like people have to separate like what the coaches are doing, what we're doing. If you did that for the draft, let's say you won a ton of money. I went on so many like draft prop shows, whether it was Bet the Edge at NBC or my friends' shows at like 4for4, ATR, others.
Right.
And I literally was chirping into text threads and everything. Like it does not matter what we think. We are trying to win money for everybody. That is our job, to make their life better. If it's just a $10 bottle of wine, if it's a night out with your loved one, whatever the case, we are trying to help other people. And to do that, we need to separate ourselves from our own opinions. We don't matter. The coaches matter because they're making the picks. And if you did that correctly, you won money.
Yeah, it's like lust. It's like you want it, but you know the outcome's not going to be what it should be. Yeah. Dude, time for some receivers. This is a guy who I love drafting every year. I love where I get him, and I love where he finishes. Yeah, he breaks your heart. Bottom comes out from him. Tyler Lockett, man, he's looking up at you. Pick me. Wide receiver 8. Got DK. Russ wants to cook. Of course, they're going to try to establish the run like always. Thoughts on Lockett here?
Oh, I love Lockett, especially in that range. For whatever reason, Lockett is the one getting penalized by drafters for the second half of the season, for that stretch he put together, even though DK Metcalf was a wide receiver 1, a top 12 finish, and only one of the games over the second half of the season, Seattle's final 8 games. So DK Metcalf also had a bad stretch. But
Right.
Tyler Lockett only finished with 6 fewer fantasy points total than DK Metcalf.
Nobody talks about that.
They were the same guy, and no one, for some reason, everyone's out on Tyler Lockett. I don't get it. So I've been taking all of the discount on Tyler Lockett. Even if he is splashy like he was last year, I understand his total fantasy points that I just referenced didn't all happen like weekly. He was more inconsistent. He did win your league for you. He won your best ball weeks 3 times. And like, how many receivers have that ability to go over 200 with 3 TDs? Tyler Lockett's one of them. So we should stop penalizing him for that, because that's terrific, especially for best ball.
Hell yeah, and where you can draft this guy, like you're getting him on some teams as your wide receiver 3 if you want to wait on like a tight end or whatever. Like, this is a stud, and I'm like you, I'm confused. I've always just thought he was better than the consensus ranks him. So
and Dwayne Eskridge is going to turn 25 in season. He's a old Mac guy. We're not worried about him being competition at all. This is still a honed-in target tree between Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. To a lesser extent, one of my favorite tight ends. If you're waiting on tight end, I'm not, admittedly, so take this advice with a grain of salt, because I prefer to put skin in the game with all of my opinions. But I do have Gerald Everett ranked as my tight end 12 overall. I do like him quite a bit.
that's a shot right there, baby. But hey, dude, I mean, if you're not getting a top tight end, a lot of people don't want Fan. They're scared of Drew Lock. They're scared of Gesicki. They want to take a flyer on Gerald Everett, Janu Smith, these other guys that have the upside. We just haven't seen it. Speaking of tight ends, Logan Thomas, the late bloomer from Virginia Tech, quarterback, all that. We've seen Waller do it. We've seen these other guys. Tight end 3 last year. And yet, same kind of thing, getting drafted in like the tight end 8 range. Is this a steal, or is this just you don't believe the writing on the wall?
If you're waiting for the second or third tier, pending how you shape your tiers up for tight ends, Logan Thomas is a tremendous value. I do think he's undervalued if you're skipping over those first 4 or 5 guys and waiting and rounding out Logan Thomas in a 2 tight end build. One of my favorite stats, Rich Rebar has written about this offseason, one of the smartest individuals and someone I'm very fortunate to call one of my best friends in life. He mentioned that the tight end 1 and the tight end 3 margin of scoring was the greatest it's been, the widest it's been since 2003, literally 2 decades, which tells us that is not sticky. It tells us that it's going to creep closer together. And so I think people, it's hard to say this, I think people are overpaying for Kelsey at like the 1.5, 1.6, since we know the scoring is going to creep back after he did set, literally, he was second, I believe, in fantasy points for a tight end ever, like in league history, the second most ever. So we know it's going to creep back. Thus, we should wait on Waller in the second round as opposed to being the person that reaches for Kelsey. And so just due to the margin of scoring, because Logan Thomas was that tight end 3, I do think Logan Thomas is very undervalued. Recall the first half of the season that he still led the league among tight ends and routes run. The issue is that he had the second lowest catchable ball rate per Pro Football Focus because his quarterbacks were so awful. Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, like no matter how many routes he ran, he was never going to get an accurate pass. But this year, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. And so it's a completely different scenario. We should all be high on Logan Thomas and jamming him to the same tier as TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, and Tyler Higbee and Dallas Goedert.
And he's nowhere close to those.
And guys. He's nowhere close, and that's wrong. That's incorrect.
It's crazy. I'm going to hit you one more.
Of course.
This is really, I think, the only thing holding everybody back is Winston and Taysom Hill. Mike Thomas, man. What, he came off 125, 150 receptions? It was something ridiculous. 2 years ago, banged up, injured, no Drew Brees. You got Winston Hill. Tell me who's the quarterback there in your opinion, and then hit me up with a ranking for Michael Thomas, or where you think he's going to – is he going to be a 1 or a 2?
Unfortunately, I don't think the quarterback in New Orleans matters to the extent that we should draft them. Even if Taysom is a starter – or I'm sorry, even if Winston is a starter, Taysom gets thrusted into the field inside the 10-yard line, right? And so that's going to a la like a poor man's Jacoby Brissett. So it's going to cancel out whatever Winston does to that point anyhow. And so that's why – maybe in best ball leagues in 3 QB builds, well, quote unquote, 3 body builds because you should draft them as one QB, you can do that since they are pretty much free and going undrafted. But overall, like, you just need to be very careful with that situation.
Yeah, you're not dependent on those guys.
I don't do it in 2 QB builds either. But no matter who is in there, we need to be higher on Michael Thomas because we haven't seen Michael Thomas be a receiver that goes downfield. But literally, just there's no – you can't quantify this, but just being one of the best receivers in the league, like, he could run more than slants. Like, it doesn't come down to him only being a slant boy. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And so if Jameis Winston's under center, the targets might be volatile, but Thomas will go downfield more than he ever did with Drew Brees' entire career. So that leaves a higher ceiling than we perceive for Thomas. And if it's Taysom Hill, then remember, Hill in 4 full starts, Thomas had a 33% target share with him. And so overall, he is my wide receiver 9, right behind DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson, whichever order you have them in. Yeah. And he's going to stay there because honestly, that he could even succeed those 2.
I like it. To me, yeah, I mean, wide receiver 9, it doesn't feel that risky. But, yeah, DK Metcalf, he's a different one, like, because he is sexy. Everybody wants that name. So it's one of those you got to kind of toggle with. Do you want the alpha in New Orleans or do you want, like I said, lock it a couple rounds later? You never know.
Right.
Dude, give me one player. I don't want you to talk fantasy. I just want you to talk as a fan. Just one player that just you love. Like, you've watched football forever. It could be a Dan Marino. It could be a Quincy Carter. Just somebody that, resonates with you either as a kid, as an adult, your guy.
I've only been somewhat nervous, talking to one person. Josh Norris pointed this out whenever we went to Miami, oddly enough, in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs 49ers game. And we had Emmitt Smith on stage. Whoa. Right next to PFT to interview him. And, he doesn't know little peon John Daigle. No big deal. But he obviously shaped, like, my love of football early in my career. And so I was a tad nervous, but also, like, I communicate well. No big deal. And he was there because – so I don't know if you've ever done, like, Super Bowl interviews or whatever, but when you interview athletes, they always promote something, right? You got to get out their promotion at first and then have a normal conversation with them. And he had tequila because he's a co-owner. He has stake in Herradura. And when he mentioned it, like, he wanted to talk tequila. I was like, bro, like, you're speaking my language. Get up here. Let's talk tequila together. And he mentioned, like, the mezcal. And mezcal, you don't know this, but mezcal is my favorite drink. I love mixing into cocktails. And so when he started talking about mezcal, I gave him a recipe live on the podcast. If you go back 2 years, that you can make mezcal old fashions if you just change the orange bitters to dark chocolate bitters and do a couple sprinkles, because the way your palate rolls with the smoke of the mezcal and the sweetness of chocolate bitters, it actually comes together like a symphony. And he loved that. So I made good friends with Emmitt Smith. Let's say that.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm a big Cowboys fan.
Also, I clearly drink a lot, so there's that too.
I mean, who doesn't? That's social hour. And
yeah.
I mean, if you're not eating and drinking, you're just not living, in my opinion.
I agree.
But, dude, yeah, Cowboys fan. I remember I name dropped Quincy Carter, Georgia fan.
Of course.
He went to the Cowboys, heaven
playoff
on
game.
earth.
Panthers playoff game with Bill Parcells. Yeah, of course.
I thought we had the second coming of Christ, and boy, was I wrong. Too much nose candy.
But he was still better than Chad Hutchinson, who they thought was the second coming.
Clint Stern,
and Anthony Wright. Yeah, all those guys. Benny Testaverde was shoved in there. Who was the other guy?
We had Ryan Leaf even for a season, which was crazy.
Yeah, it was horrendous until Bill Parcells refused to. This is the thing about the Cowboys organization, by the way, just not to bore people. But
no, you're good.
They are
Cowboys fan, baby. I'm all about it.
Well, to be fair, I don't pretend to be a Cowboys fan. I try to stay unbiased, but when they're good, my childlike joy, since I grew up watching every game, studying them pretty much, my childlike joy comes out because I do want them to be good. But the issue is they're truly never going to be good because they're behind in so many ways. They have gotten so lucky. It took Bill Parcells to find undrafted free agent Tony Romo, and Sean Payton tried to trade for him. Jerry Jones was going to do it. And Bill Parcells is the one to say, no, like, this is my guy. We're not trading him. And imagine, like, the decade they would have had if they did not have Romo. It would have been the same shit over and over again. And then go down the road and go to fourth rounder Dak Prescott.
What are the chances?
They tried to take Paxton Lynch, but the Broncos took him 2 picks before him. And so they take Dak Prescott, not knowing what they have, whatever. So they didn't even want him. They get to camp. He's fourth string. No one remembers this. He's fourth string behind Tony Romo, Kellen Moore, and Jamil Showers. Jamil Showers was a special teamer from the Aggies. I went to A&M, so I know this. It took Tony Romo sliding against Seattle in a preseason game, hurting his back because he was oft injured, and then Kellen Moore as the backup, breaking his ankle in training camp in California, for then Dak Prescott to be thrusted into a competition. He wasn't even named starter as a rookie. Competition with Jamil Showers, and then suddenly Dak Prescott is the god that he is now. So they have been so lucky with the one position that is the hardest to get right, and they don't even realize it.
I feel like watching Romo, I loved him, but it was like a nervous breakdown, man. I felt like I was on edge, like you were shaking because you were like, oh, we're so close, but we might lose this one. Pick six, boom, break your heart. Maybe it's just as a fan, that's the things you remember with Romo.
I'll never forget there's still a lot of good Romo games, but I'll never forget the Romo Peyton Manning showdown in Dallas. What was it, like 54-52?
That was crazy.
Last offensive series, of course, he throws an interception, but overall, like he's like Phillip Rivers, like borderline Hall of Famer, to where he played. He's elite, but the issue is he played with the most elite. Like he played with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, of course. He overlapped with some of the greats. It reminds me of Andy Rooney. Is that the tennis player, England?
Might be.
Andy. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. Either way, where he overlapped with Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal. And like, imagine being an elite tennis player against literally the 3 greatest of all time. You don't matter. And that's what Romo and Rivers are. They just don't matter because they played behind these other, just the best we will ever talk about ever.
Well, dude, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. Let's talk fucking wrestling, dude. I'm going to hit you with the current first. You were talking Hell in a Cell. I saw your tweet.
Yeah.
WWE and AEW. How the tides have turned. I mean, what the truck? First off, WWE, man. I mean, it felt like it was really gaining steam. And then you've seen a lot of releases. You've seen a lot of good matches, but bad finishes. What are your thoughts on the current product of WWE?
The writing is such shit. So step back for those listening who aren't wrestling fans and understand that we know as fans, like, we're nerds. It's our escape, right? And so we want your dumb writing because the writing is the best part about wrestling. There are too many good athletes and wrestlers nowadays. You can't just get in the ring, have a good match. It doesn't matter. Everyone has a good match. We need the story. We need the plot to be built up correctly. And yes, and WWE now has horrendous soap operas. They don't even try anymore. Or like for women, it's too sexualized and they just like get in slap fights and then go take it to the ring. Stupid. I want an actual good story. And fortunately, they allow Sasha Banks to do so, but really no one else. And then for men, you know, like Seth Rollins was in our most recent match, like WrestleMania, they say. The crowd returns, and Seth Rollins fought Cesaro, a great match. Right. But the storyline was literally that Cesaro didn't like Seth Rollins' shirt. How stupid is that? That's not intelligent at all.
Well, it's almost ignorant for us to have to like deal with that. Like you said, it's ridiculous.
We literally want our stories. Like, that's what we want. We want plots. And so just be more intelligent about it, because we know we're watching acting. We understand that. But the fact that we're willing to pay so much and travel so much for these events, like, give us what we want, because anything else is just not acceptable considering you're taking our money for it.
It's crazy. There is something good, I feel. How do you feel about Roman Reigns, the Usos, just what Roman's done from being booed out of the building as almost kind of like that Cena feel, where everybody just hated this guy, to now you hate him, but for a good reason, because he's so damn good as an entertainer.
So I wouldn't say I worry, but I'm going to be interested to see how he transitions his promo style as a soft, dominant speaker whenever fans are chanting over him. Because there's no doubt the heel turn that, by the way, us as fans yelled about years ago. It was the best thing for his career. He's amazing. Absolutely. He's amazing as the head of the table. The issue is that he's only been the head of the table inside the Thunderdome and against fake crowd noise. So what happens whenever he's getting booed at people that are louder than him? He's going to have a much more dominant voice. So as long as he's comfortable and asserts himself, I think it'll be fine. And I think he's such a professional that it will be fine overall. But that is my one concern for Roman Reigns and escaping the Thunderdome.
Give me your current, exclude Roman Reigns. Give me your WWE guy currently.
Oh, WWE. Gosh, I still respect Seth Rollins, even though it's a hangover from, because I think the Seth Rollins heel run with J&J Security all the way back to his title fights with Cena, and remember the Rumble triple threat with Cena and Brock Lesnar, like one of the best matches in history. I still have so much respect for Rollins and think that whatever he wants to do in this career, he can do it successfully because he's so good, both babyface and heel. Also, I always look back to the white Power Ranger outfit at SummerSlam. I was there. I was there for that SummerSlam, by the way. Because like pre-pandemic, I used to travel a lot for the big title fights. I love wrestling. It's like my favorite thing. That's why I'm glad I'm here. So like Rollins, I still understand that he can do whatever the hell he wants. That's a scapegoat answer. I have a better answer for AEW because that's where my favorite guy is throughout his entire career.
What about Shinsuke Nakamura? Is he just one of those guys that, like, fuck, man? To me, he's entertaining, and I loved what he was doing with the crown thing, kind of. I just feel like they haven't used this guy. Obviously, they don't want him to be the world champ.
Go ahead. I don't think it's so much that they haven't used him. The thing about him and Brock Lesnar is that they know they're good. And so they'll only step up when it's a big fight feel. Like when it's a title fight and they know they're needed. I was in San Antonio for Shinsuke's debut against Sami Zayn at NXT. And that was I remember after the match, I went to the urinal and because everyone was out there for the match, right? That was the first time we heard Shinsuke's music in America. It was incredible. Everyone, like all the guys are looking over at each other at the urinal and just saying, was that one of the best matches you've ever seen? And everyone's that was one of the greatest things we were in attendance for ever. It was such a special moment. But the issue is that they're so good that they don't get up for. Brock Lesnar, like I said, does this all the time. They don't get up for like regular show appearances. It doesn't matter. When you call them up to the big stage for pay-per-views, if that's what they're called anymore, TV specials for title fights, that's when they present their best. And so I just think Shinsuke coasts until he's actually needed. And then we know he's one of the best performers in the world.
Yeah, he makes up for it. Let's go AEW, man, because good God, Double or Nothing. Like that, to me, was a whole different feel for a pay-per-view that I've had in a long time as a fan. And just the storylines and just different things we've seen with Jericho reinventing Cody. You see Moxley there. AEW, man, fill me in on your thoughts.
It was the crowd, right? Like the crowd are the people who made it. Just to be that excited. I think we've sort of taken a step back with Adam Hangman Page, unfortunately, because in his run as a tag team champ with Kenny Omega, like I still go back. So what I do here to peek behind the curtains for everybody, because I have such an exciting life. I'll drink a lot of wine, and then if I'm home on the weekend, I'll go back and watch all the classic matches I love so much. And I always revisit the Young Bucks versus Omega and Hangman Page, because that's still one of the greatest tag team title matches I ever witnessed. Just the fact that the Young Bucks put on the golden trigger and then Kenny Omega kicks out at a half count because of his love. Oh my God, it's perfect. It's so beautifully written. And so that match excites me. Having said that, the crowd was the best. And then John Moxley, of course, is my favorite because I feel like John Moxley,
everything.
Yeah, John Moxley is me. He doesn't do social media well, if at all. And then like when he's gone, he's gone. We're never going to hear from him ever again because he's going to go out in the woods with his wife and baby and just live that life. And like unless he's tagged on Instagram, we're never going to see him again. So like he is my persona and personality that I always try to hone.
Put your Miss Cleo hat on. AEW, who's the next big signing? We just saw Andrade go, and the crowd came unglued.
Oh, yeah.
All these, that was crazy. And then all these releases. Is Strowman going to make his way out of WWE somewhere? Is TNA ever going to like sign one of these big names? They got Cass. Is there going to be some kind of meat on the bone? They have that. What's the word? History, I guess, would be the word.
I would imagine that it's Strowman. That's an easy answer. I understand, but it's definitely like just to be a WWE champion within the last calendar year and then get released. They clearly mismanaged their books and gave him too large of a contract that they couldn't even keep. I also wonder if they're going to sell the company, if that's why they did so many cuts, but that's behind the scenes. Overall, though, yeah, I think it's Strowman. That's an easy pickup. And just like Christian, just like Matt Hardy, he doesn't have to be on there every night, but he can build a feud, even with a big guy like Rusev and take some bumps and everything. He's not the best wrestler, but he knows enough to where he can be in big fights. Even like Brian Cage will be a great match for him.
Right. Brian Cage, good God, what a big dude.
Big dude. And like, I wasn't even the biggest Brian Cage fan because I just thought he was a muscle guy. That's it. But his tag team feuds with Sting and they're just amazing. They were great matches.
You gotta mold that clay and put him in situations.
It probably helps that Darby Allin wants to kill himself every time he wrestles a match, but yeah.
Another one of those just great wrestlers that everybody's Darby Allin, another one, dude. Arrows pointing up. Let's talk old school. We know what we got in AEW and WWE. You're a fan. Here we go, dude. Attitude Era. The original DX, the Heartbreak Kid. This was my favorite Shawn Michaels before he went and got the back injury. After that, I love him still, but he lost that cockiness, that attitude. Young Triple H. Dude, and Diesel and Razor kind of disrespected, ready to go somewhere else and just light it on fire. Give me your take me back in time to John Daigle during this little Attitude Era. Start of it.
I was in Boy Scouts. I was in Webelos, I believe. And our meetings were Monday night at 7 p.m., which overlapped with Nitro. And so you have a choice as like a 12-year-old kid. And the choice I made was to instead drop out of Boy Scouts and go watch wrestling instead. Hey. And so clearly I was there for both.
Probably Nitro the best choice you ever made.
I mean, best or worst, however you want to look at it. But yeah, I was clearly there for both all the Nitros and Attitude Era. Stone Cold, still my favorite. It's an easy answer, I know. Even though my favorite WrestleMania ever is still 30 with Daniel Bryan winning. Every match from Cesaro winning the Andre the Giant Royal Rumble, it's like every match is perfection. Everyone did so well with that.
What a great, just New Orleans, just everything about it. Like you said, dude, the triple threat match with Batista. Yeah. I mean, dude, and Lesnar, like Lesnar beating Undertaker. You would never think that in a million gazillion years.
Yeah, when I say that, like, of course, like Daniel Bryan main eventing was close to my heart, but also it doesn't matter because like every match was important in that whole show for 4 hours. It was incredible. And so it was just, that's still my favorite forever, even though like, 17 and 18 always hold their own weight. But yeah, I was more or less a Stone Cold guy. And then I dropped out around 2000, 2001. Like a lot of people. Right. And then I came back like a lot of people because the CM Punk pipe bomb was on CNN. It made it that far.
That's crazy.
I was like, what is this? Why is this a big deal? Oh, because he went off script, whatever. And from that point forward, I have literally watched everything since, for better or worse.
I got a good CM Punk story. So right around that pipe bomb area, he wins the title, and I guess he was dealing with an injury. Well, I used to work at the Hilton, Pensacola Beach, valet, bellhop, whatever. And Monday night, we're watching wrestling, smoking pot, enjoying it. Next day at work, I go to open the door, and all I see is CM Punk's neck tattoo. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I was just watching this guy on TV the night before, and now I'm getting to hang out with CM Punk and Lita. Like, just crazy how it all works.
My best story is that I'm fortunate enough to have friends who are close in AEW, like, media. And slipped me a pass for Full Gear, which was the Omega Moxley lights out death match. Yeah. Oh, It was incredible. And so I was sitting there in the VIP section, like the media section, just enjoying as a fan. And then when you're exiting, we were trying to get to the tunnel, me and my media friend. And when they were pushing us, come to find out they weren't pushing us towards the exit. They were pushing us towards the interview room. And so I end up in a scrum, like NFL scrum, with all these people. And it's like, okay, I can pretend to be media. I work for NBC. I can do this. No big deal. I pulled out my phone, press record, and then here comes they chauffeur Chris Jericho with the championship in. And so I interviewed. I asked a question. I still have it on my phone. I have, as a fake media personality, the interview with Chris Jericho, like holding up the phone to his voice.
Dude. You need to post that.
We're not going to hold that because I would like those free media passes again. So
yeah, you don't want to get in trouble. Good point.
I was professional though. I pretended to be an interviewer. I did fine.
All right, Stone Cold's your favorite wrestler.
Yes.
Stone Cold and the Macho Man. Cut me a Stone Cold promo.
Oh, I don't know if I can.
Come on, you can do the voice or try at least.
No. Like I don't think I can. I actually
John Daigle, come to my matches, drink my beer.
You're actually really good at that. So I genuinely, I was in theater when I was in college. Also, why I love wrestling because it's theater. We talked about that, but I had vocal cord surgery, and so this is the voice, for better or worse, that you're stuck with. I can't even karaoke anymore because I can't hit certain notes. And so, the voice thing. I apologize. I would like to participate. I can't though.
We got to get you gimmicked up so you could be a manager next time instead of.
No, like if you want my wrestling personality, that is John Dollars, who is a Texas oil salesman, and my butler carries around my championship trophy on a silver platter, and on the ramp he opens it up and presents it to me, and I obviously put it on and then walk to the ring in a suit. Like everybody's
got that, like. That's what I talk to people all the time. I was like, just give me that personality. Like everybody watches it. You can book it better. At least you think you can.
What would your finisher be? Like, what would you do? Because I think it's important in 2021, like to have a passing and rushing quarterback. I think it's important for wrestling to be able to do your finishing move and from any position. This is why Seth Rollins has the curb stomp, because he understood he could do it from anywhere, any position he wanted in the ring.
How about that's tough, man. I mean, I used to love the theatrics of tuning up the band, but I feel like I can't steal Shawn Michaels, finisher. Everybody loves the power bomb, but I can't do the power bomb on Yokozuna. You know what I mean?
Mine, since I asked the question, mine would be a inverted stunner, almost like Shane Douglas's finishing maneuver, how he tucked their chin on his shoulder and then went to his knees. But I'd like to make it more powerful. And obviously it takes selling by the other individual to pretend like it's a stunner and you can't breathe and then you pin the person. But yeah, because whether they jump from the turnbuckle, the rope, wherever, you can catch somebody, drop to your knees and just like stun them as their head is facing this way. And that's my finishing move. Crude Awakening, by the way. Crude Awakening. So because I am an oil salesman.
We did a title match or wrestlers to never win the world belt, the big title, and we got on Rick Rude, and somehow this turned into Rick Rude's penis because he used to inject steroids into his dick.
Of course, yeah.
So then it went completely haywire, but I got a John Cena follow out of it, so could be worse.
Interesting. By the way, John Cena, it's like not even fair, right? I went with my buddy. Do you know Jonathan Bales?
I've heard his name, but the
great Jonathan Bales, one of like the smartest, most successful entrepreneurs, CEOs, one of my best friends, co-started Fantasy Labs, which he hired me initially. That's why we've been best friends since, or good friends. And I took him to SummerSlam in Brooklyn. We took a train up there, and I was booing John Cena. It was Cena, AJ Styles 1. And the crowd was booing Cena, of course. And he was like, why is everyone booing Cena? Like, Cena's an awesome guy. And I was like, yeah, but that's not the point. Like, Cena has dominated our TVs for so long.
Yeah, we hate to watch him at this point.
We all respect the hell out of him, but we're going to keep booing him because that's what we do. So, like, I always wanted to be there to, like, stand up, applaud him at the end of his run, which we never got to do because, obviously, the end of his run was the Funhouse match. That is still one of the greatest theatrical performances of our lifetime. I go back and watch that and just think, like, imagine that in front of a crowd. It was perfection.
Well, we kind of got snubbed with that like Undertaker Cena WrestleMania. It was just
Yeah.
So that was like that perfect, rebound for everybody, especially during that era, or I say era, but the COVID era. So, dude, let's wrap this up, man.
Yeah.
You're a badass, dude. I appreciate you coming on. April 3rd, 2022, I will be at WrestleMania in Dallas. If you're there, definitely hit me up, man. I'll be doing the access, partying my ass off, you name it. I'll be there. Dude, it's a pleasure, man. We talked fantasy. We talked Lockett, Logan, Thomas, Swift. We've had a good time, brother. And NBC, not Roto World, but NBC Sports, The Edge, best ball. We're trying to win money, and you're doing it because, like Macho would say, nobody does it better than Johnny Dollars. Yeah.
I think you summed it all up, and I appreciate that. Thank you for having me this evening. This is a wonderful time. Remember, it's July, so like macro takes like we were talking about are much more important than like ranking player RB6 over RB7. It just doesn't matter because nothing's happening over the next month. We have so much time. We're going to repeat the same points over and over again. Everyone, just remember, get your mentals and chickens right, because it's the longest season ever. So I just want to continue stressing to use this next month wisely, go out with your loved one, get mentally healthy, because we're going to need it to be successful from July on.
Dude, John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for everything. Till next time, keep keeping on. From John Daigle to the Matty Daddy, it has been a pleasure, my treasure.